Hey, have you ever felt like you wanted to do something big or learn a new skill or start a new project or change your life only to feel that you're stuck, still waiting for the right time? In today's episode, I want to tackle one of the biggest obstacles that you and I face in reaching our goals. And we're going to look at and explore how do we take that first step when you feel like it or not, and this step, how it can transform your life. Many of us can fall into the trap of waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right time, waiting for the right circumstances, only to wake up one day and realize we should have just got started. Yet we hesitate, we procrastinate. Why we keep putting things off over and over again, even though we know we shouldn't, I'm not sure that I'll fully understand why procrastination is such a common issue that many of us face. Now, in my research on this subject, I across a work by a doctor by the name of Dr. Pierce Still. In fact, he's the author of the book called The Procrastination Equation. And here's kind of a summary of what drives us to wait. What drives us to that point of procrastination is simply this. We often, as he puts it, we desire a short-term mood repair. Meaning this, we delay tasks to avoid discomfort and seek immediate emotional relief instead. So we'd rather put off the discomfort of starting something that we know that we should start in order to have an emotional relief right then and there. How many of you would agree that doing that is actually bringing more harm to our lives than good? Procrastination, waiting. We've got to stop waiting. Life is too short. It's passing us by. Now, that's the bad news, but there's good news as well. In this research, I come across another doctor who I believe you pronounce it Dr. Day. Maybe it's Dr. Die. I'm not quite sure. But he identified what he calls the fresh start effect, where people basically are more likely to take action, more likely to start after setting up a temporary landmark, like New Year's resolution, right? The new year is starting, and so, hey, we ought to get moving in the right direction. Or some people might choose their birthday and say, all right, at my birthday, that's the time I'm going to begin on working on my goals. Some people will even maybe wait till, all right, the new week has begun. It's a new week. Let's get started on the things we wanted to accomplish this week, or last week, probably rather, because we've already waited once again. And that's okay, but I want to give you better news than that. You don't need a landmark. At any moment, you can stop waiting and have a fresh start. And there's so much power in starting. I love what Mark Twain said. He said, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Think about it this way. Your life's kind of like a soundtrack, and it starts playing the moment that you hit record. Imagine you're sitting there in front of a microphone, just like I am right now, thinking about starting that very first episode of a podcast. You haven't pressed the record button yet because you're worried about sounding perfect or using the right words or making sure that the lighting is good, or is your shirt the right color. I actually even did that before I recorded this episode. But the second you decide to hit the record button, Without overthinking it too much, you just hit record, something shifts. You begin turning your ideas into a reality instead of just all the ideas circling around in your head. Think about your life kind of like a movie where the soundtrack, right? The music begins to start. That moment, that big important scene begins. That's what happens when you stop waiting and you take action. Your personal soundtrack, everything that brings your story to life, starts playing. But if you keep waiting, you'll never let that music play. You'll never start building the experiences that truly shape your life. The key to this is this: you've got to start, you've got to step up. Then you let momentum carry you forward. Unfortunately, what happens is often people are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan. But what I've discovered in life is simply this: the perfect, it never arrives. Listen, an imperfect start is better than no start at all. Starting messy beats stalling forever, but you got to take the first step. Love what Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. In other words, just start. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't wait for everything to be just right, just to be perfect. No. Once you start, trust that the momentum then will carry you on after that. And here's the awesome thing: you will create your own right moment by taking action rather than hoping that that right moment will show up. I heard about a lady, her name was Julie Powell, and she was, I guess, a government temp worker living in New York City. She was in her late 20s, and she had this passion for writing, but she really felt stuck, unsure of what to do next. And so she waited, she hesitated, she procrastinated. Julie dreamed of doing something creative, particularly around cooking and writing, but kept putting it off. She toyed with all the ideas in her head, yet she never started. She was bogged down by questions like this: is this even worth doing? What if no one cares? Am I even good enough to do this? You ever been there? I was there just trying to get this podcast going, had those thoughts, had those moments of, man, am I good enough to do this? Are people even going to listen? Are you going to get people out there to be interested in what you're trying to do? And are you more or less going to be able to help people? Man, I had all those thoughts go through my mind, just like Julie, for a long time. Doubts led her to remain in a job she didn't love, simply waiting for clarity or for a perfect moment that never came. But then one day, in 2002, frustrated with life's direction, man, Julie Powell changed herself. She decided to challenge herself. She actually began to start. She challenged herself with this question: what if I actually do this? And so she set a goal to begin to tell people that I am going to bake, I'm going to cook 524 recipes in 365 days. And so she launched this blog called Julia Project to basically keep track of all of her wins, all of her losses, and this personal revelation that she was hopefully getting along the way. And so she leapt into the depths of the unknown, had no blogging or culinary fame, only a desire, listen to this, only a desire to finally start. And everything changed the moment she started. This story blows me away. She all of a sudden gained an unexpected online audience. Uh, Readers were loving her honest, humorous posts, and it just attracted all these followers that found her culinary adventures and her misadventures very refreshing and real. Then she began to connect with people globally who cheered her on, transforming what began as a personal challenge really into a shared journey with tons and tons of people. So much so that her reading grew so much that Julie actually got featured in mainstream media. And eventually, again, the story just blows me away. Eventually, she received a book deal and they turned her blog into a best selling book titled Julie and Julia. I mean, think about that for a moment. Here you are, you're waiting. You've got this idea. You don't know if you can do it. You're waiting, you're hesitating, you're procrastinating. And all of a sudden, she stops waiting and she starts. And that is the power of starting. It changed and transformed her life from that moment on. I mean, think about it, best selling book, rave reviews of a blog, mainstream media. And in fact, in 2009, they actually took her book and adopted it as a movie titled Julie and Julia. Talk about becoming successful. Talk about stopping the waiting and just starting. It's crazy. But here's the thing, that is the power of starting. Julie's journey shows this powerful shift that happens, this mind shift that took place where she stopped waiting and simply began. At that moment, it's not a daydream anymore for Julie. Like, her soundtrack is now playing because she hit record, and on the other side of that was a book deal, was a movie. It just blows me away that once she got out of her own way, there was a ripple effect that took place and changed her life forever. Have you ever had a dream or a goal that you kept postponing? Telling yourself you'll get to it someday? Man, that's exactly where Julie was at. Think about that for a moment. You're waiting, you're hesitating. You know there's something you want to accomplish. You know you've got a dream. You know you've got a goal that, man, would change your life forever, but you're telling yourself, oh, I've just got to wait for the right moment. I've just got to wait for the right circumstances. I need the right resources. Listen, stop telling yourself that. Stop waiting. That was the moment that Julie's life changed. That was the moment she was able to leave a job that she didn't care for. That was the day that reality actually was her dreams, and her dreams were her reality. And so let me ask you a question. What excuses keep you on the sidelines? What excuses? Is it you don't think you're good enough? You're not sure if it'll work? You just need certain things to get going? Listen, all of that will keep you paralyzed forever. You are qualified. You are able to do what you need to accomplish in your life. But here's the thing, you have to start. That's the mind shift that has to take place. That we're just going to say, you know what? I'm going for it. It may not be perfect. I may fall flat on my face. And guess what? That's okay. Like this podcast may fall flat on its face, but that's okay. I'm not waiting. I'm not worried about that. Now, maybe you won't cook 524 recipes like she tried to, but can you take one small step towards your goal? Can you take one small move towards starting that project that you want to do? Can you begin to think about one step that you can take to reach that goal that you're postponing? Can you grab maybe a piece of paper or put it in the notes on your phone? Write down one tiny action that you can complete in the next 24 hours that will move you closer to your goal, and then start. Just simply start. Listen, Julie's best-selling book, her movie deal, the career shift, all the listeners and all the people that followed her journey would have never happened if she would have stayed in the wait mode. You've got to stop waiting. Open yourself up. Think about this. What possibilities for your life are on the other side of starting? What possibilities? What success? What goals? What dreams? What things? What would your life look like? How would it be different if you just stopped waiting and took the step of starting? It is a powerful, powerful yet simple thing that if we will just start, momentum will begin to take us in, and progress will begin to take us to the places that we want to go. Now that we've talked about how powerful it is to simply just start, let's talk about the biggest barrier that rises once you do. It's that nagging voice that tries to derail your progress. And so you've got to prepare for this fight that at the moment you begin to start, there will be this invisible force that begins to come against you. It's like in the room of your mind, there is a monster living in your closet, lurking under your bed. And this monster loves to rear its ugly head with that nagging voice to try to stop you just as you get going. And this monster has a name, and its name is this: resistance. There's a great book titled The War on Art, which I'd highly recommend that you read. And in this book, Stephen Pressfield popularizes this notion of resistance. It's this internal force he describes that tries to sabotage your creative and productive work. He emphasizes that, listen, nearly every person faces this. I'd venture to say that probably all of us, especially at the beginning of a project or the pursuit of a goal or a dream where we're trying to accomplish something, this monster of resistance that comes from within. It's not an outside force. The world is not trying to stop us from writing, from painting, or pursuing a passion, as he describes. It's this self sabotaging voice of this monster in our heads that generates excuses, self doubt, and procrastination. Now, this monster is very sly. He has a way of manifesting himself in different ways. Sometimes the monster shows up as fear. Sometimes it might show up as rationalization, where logically you're just going, well, I guess this can't be done, or whatever. It begins to logically begin to tell you that this isn't good for you. It can come in the form of distractions, perfectionism, timidity, really anything that keeps us from starting or finishing the creative work we know we need to do. This invisible barrier comes and holds people back from fulfilling their potential. And I agree with Stephen. This is so true what he states. He states this: most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. So, how do we overcome this resistance? Do we run? Do we shrink back? Do we try to fight another day? No, actually, to overcome resistance, you don't run from this monster. You've just got to recognize that it's there and that it's a natural, normal feeling that comes. And then we've got to do this. Instead of running, you face it head on and you start anyways. This is how you overcome the monster and kill this monster by starting. Because when you start, it's like taking the sharpest edge of the sword and slaying that monster of resistance. I mean, that's great news that this monster can actually be eliminated. The bad news is the monster doesn't like to stay dead. The monster of resistance keeps coming back. It doesn't vanish after one success. It reappears at each new challenge, demanding that we must stay vigilant. In other words, you've got to keep slaying the monster of resistance, whether you're trying to start writing a book, whether you're trying to get to the gym and get into shape, whether you want to maybe start a hobby like playing guitar or sewing or crocheting or whatever the case may be. This monster is lurking around the corner, waiting to pounce on you, waiting to hold us back. And you've just got to keep facing it and keep slaying this monster. Now, the great thing is this: each time we slay it by showing up and doing the work, we get stronger and we move closer to the life that we truly want. That's how we stack our wins one at a time. Let me give you a powerful example of a guy's life that I think will help us, inspire us to conquer our own inner monster of resistance. This guy's name is David Goggins. You may have heard of him before, maybe not, but man, this guy transformed his life from a just overweight pest exterminator into one of the toughest endurance athletes on the planet. His life is truly a testament, a brutal fight against the inner resistance of self-doubt, fear, and excuses that try to hold us all back from reaching our potential. Now, Goggins grew up in a household filled with abuse and hardship. His childhood was marked by racism, poverty, and learning disabilities, all which reinforced the belief that he had this monster, that he wasn't good enough. And he let these limitations define him for a really long time. By his early 20s, he had become severely overweight, weighing nearly 300 pounds. As I said, working as a pest exterminator. Think about this. He's working as a pest exterminator. Just a regular guy trapped in a cycle of self-pity and avoidance. Then one day, Goggins sees this documentary on Navy SEAL training. If you know anything about Navy SEAL training, man, it is a grueling program designed to break the weak. I mean, it's intense. I've seen this documentary. But as he's watching this documentary, something on the inside of him began to stir. He realized that the only thing standing between him and the life that he wanted, it wasn't external circumstances. It was himself. Resistance had won for years, but at that moment, listen, at that moment, he decided to fight back. The first thing he had to do was lose 100 pounds in 3 months to even qualify for Navy SEAL training. I mean, that's where The real war with resistance began as he describes every morning his mind told him, "You're not built for this. You're too far gone. Just start tomorrow." Have you ever heard those kind of voices when you begin to start something? Maybe not those exact ones, but have you ever heard, "You'll never make it? It can't be done. Just live life the way it is. It's too hard. It's too uncomfortable." Listen, David refused to listen. He pushed past the excuses, waking up at 4 a.m. to train, running miles on painful joints, and forcing himself through intense workouts. The weight dropped, but more importantly, listen, more importantly than the weight going, he started winning against the voice in his head. Next, he enrolls in SEAL training and he fails. And so he goes back for another time and fails again. Even after losing all this weight, the fight was not over. Goggins went through Hell Week, which, man, if you've seen this documentary, is not very fun. It is Hell Week for a reason. It's this infamous SEAL initiation program where it lasts for about 5 days. Everybody's running on about 4 hours of sleep. They're doing all kinds of crazy physical exercise, and he fails twice due to injuries. I don't know about you, but most people, I think I would have probably said, "This ain't working. I better just not come back." But here's what separates those who give up from those who win. He accepted resistance as part of the process. And so each time he came back stronger, each time enduring an unimaginable pain, and finally on the third time, he passes and becomes a Navy SEAL. Catch this. Resistance never leaves, but as David shows us, you get stronger. And so, even after becoming a Navy SEAL, resistance kept showing up, but instead of seeing it as a roadblock, he started using it as fuel. In fact, he used it for so much fuel that he became an ultra endurance athlete, pushing his body through 100-plus-mile races, even with broken bones. He set a world record for pull ups, enduring severe hand injuries before succeeding. And then he ran in the Badwater 135, one of the most grueling races on earth. After nearly collapsing multiple times, he still finished the race. And so here's the thing, every time resistance whispered, "You can't do this," David answered back with action. He slayed resistance by showing up over and over and over again. Now, listen, David Goggins' story is not about natural talent. It's not about luck. It's just about winning the war in your mind. He didn't wait for motivation. He didn't let fear dictate his actions. He made discipline his weapon against resistance. And every time he pushed forward, every time he became stronger, more unshakable, and more unstoppable. And here's the thing, you can kill the monster of resistance, but you have to keep slaying it. Listen, resistance will always try to hold you back. Whether you're writing that book, starting a business, running your first mile, but like David Goggins, you don't negotiate with it. You just push through the resistance. The more you face it, the weaker resistance becomes. And eventually, you'll stop listening to the excuses and start winning in life. And that's the truth. Resistance is always lurking, waiting to keep you from stepping into your potential. But here's the key, you don't run from it. You don't negotiate with it. You see it for what it is, and then you slay it again and again. David Goggins proved it over and over every time he showed up. And every high performer knows this, and now so do you. The battle is never over, but every time you push past resistance, you sharpen your edge. So, my challenge to you is simple: don't let today pass without taking action.